This week I spoke to Aneesh Rathi. What's up? He's a director and cinematographer who resides in Mumbai, India, known for its five-star hotels, large markets, and a little thing called Bollywood. But we're taking it right back to what makes his aesthetic so unique.
I try not to have that consistent element. I want to make it different from what anybody else has done.
His thoughts on AI.
I've been using ChatGPT since the day one it came out. I've actually sold scripts written by ChatGPT to my client and they have been shot and produced.
And his opinion of modern film school.
What film school or any school teaches us is mostly the technical aspects of making films. Those are very good, but they'll only get you till a point. What gets you beyond the point is it started off with photography. I was interested in making photographs look good. That's what I was interested into. And then I started doing photo walks with my friends. And then I shot a quantity of photos. Every photo walk I was coming back with like 2000 photos. And then I was sitting with them for 20 hours, 40 hours, going through each of the image, editing them, make them look perfect. So when you are a beginner and you are doing a photo walk, you just go out and burst your shutter, but you have no idea of how good frames are supposed to look. So that process of doing multiple photo walks, I think before I got into cinematography, I shot 100,000 photos. Just in photo walks, just in the studio, making my room a studio, putting some lights in, reflecting natural light coming in through the window. That got me very interested in everything. And then in this process I also went through hundreds of books, 50s of books about how camera works, about the technical aspect of it, and then about the art aspect of it, that what makes a good picture, what does a viewer want to see. All this process got me interested into storytelling through images. And then while I was doing all this, I was on a very different career path. So I was gonna go into finance. And then I figured out the finance thing is not working out for me. It was a very difficult course to crack in terms of exam. B, it's not something my brain naturally works around. So I had to choose a different career path. I felt like around me photography wasn't very popular. Photography was done by a very few people, and I felt photography was a bit limiting in some ways. And then I had no idea what filmmaking is. I was technically sound. I knew softwares, how to edit videos, I knew After Effects and all, but I didn't knew the storytelling aspect of it. So I chose Masters in Cinema as my next career option. And while I was in college for that, is the time I developed my love for filmmaking, and then it got me very pumped up. Like every conversation got me excited about how things happen and how we can make them happen even better. That 2-year phase made me from a technically sound person to a artistically tasteful person, I would say.
So it sounds like you went down the more educational route. In the UK and in the US, there's often a very spicy comments made by filmmaking heavyweights in the industry that you don't need film school. I usually ask everyone, as it's such a hot topic, so what's your thoughts?
So I had two options, either go to a film school or not go to a film school and still pursue the same filmmaking path. But I felt personally around me, there were not too many people I met who were into filmmaking. So film school connects you with people who have same interest. That's one plus point. I still have friends from film school who are working in different parts of the country, but you share same interests. So you get your social circle in terms of your work, and then if let's say I right now, for your context, I live in Mumbai, and Mumbai is where most of the Bollywood is, most of the film production happens. But I grew up in Delhi. Over there, there's not a lot of production infrastructure. So if I was in Mumbai, I could have started working straight after that. But because I was in Delhi, I needed some time to absorb filmmaking, get ready for the industry before I move in here. So it's different for everyone. I feel like if it depends what situation are you in, and you can straight up go into making films because that's what will make you better filmmaker.
So, what were the key steps that you took right at the very start of your filmmaking career after you graduated?
Okay, this happens to be very. I happen to be very very lucky in terms of that. I graduated just before a year before the lockdown was announced, and then I always had this clarity that I want to go into advertising. To start off with my career, I don't want to go into hardcore making films or making web shows. I want to start off a little comfortable and go into advertising, and that's where a little more money is as well. So I started applying to advertising agencies, and I got a job in Shabang, which is India's largest digital advertising agency. And then I got a job as an editor, and then I worked my way up. Right now I am a director at same agency. I have been working with same company ever since I graduated, which is very rare in filmmaking industry because people switch a lot of jobs, they do a lot of freelance work, they jump across gigs. But I have been lucky, although being at the same company, I get to work with clients from different industries, all range of industries. I have worked with corporate clients, I've worked with hospitality, hotels, we have worked with product tech, we have worked with a lot of tech clients. So it gives you all kind of exposure at one place. So I would say it there was no struggle for me.
That's amazing. Maybe it's different in India compared to like here in the UK.
How does it happen over there?
So I went to college initially, just so people didn't think I was a loser, basically, which was fun. But then it came to either studying in higher education or going into full-time work, which I would have much preferred to do. Like I would have preferred to go straight into work. But it's unbelievably difficult to get your foot in the door anywhere in the industry. So I sort of reluctantly went to university in the hope that it would help me kind of get into the film industry. I'd hopefully find some contacts, etc. But I'm thankful that I did, as it sort of did help me out a lot. But even so, it's still super difficult.
It is over here as well. Yeah, as I said, I was incredibly lucky. The probability of getting into an agency is also very low, like 2 to 4%. So I was incredibly lucky, but even finding clients over here is as difficult as it is over there, I believe.
That's interesting, yeah. So was your initial plan to stay in advertising or to move into more sort of narrative fiction and documentary?
Until now, my goal was to make my films look the industry standard films. So highest quality standards are, I believe, set in advertising because every client has a different expectation. Let's say you are working with a food brand. They won't care about costume and everything that's around it, but they'll care a lot about the food in the frame. So you work very hard on that food element. And then next you work with a fashion brand. They won't care about the food in the frame, but they'll care a lot about fashion in the frame. So initial plan when I started out was that my frames or whatever I shoot is not looking as it's not touching the benchmark which industry has. So that's why I wanted to stay in advertising for a while. But now I feel like the world is changing more towards telling stories, and with introduction of UGC, user generated content, into advertising, the benchmarks have gone down and what's acceptable has gone down. But in the narrative is taking the center stage. The story you are telling is taking the center stage. Now I feel like until now I have been focusing in making everything perfect, but still not like hanging on to things, making things, getting things done. But now I want to tell better stories. With advertising, there's a thing, whatever you make, your goal is my user should not be annoyed. That's it. Because ads are usually very annoying. But with film, your goal is very different. You want people to have a beautiful experience. So that's taking it a notch up. I try not to have that consistent element. I mean, I should have had consistent element, but what my goal in general has been that every project I do, the next project I do should be very different from what I have done. And I, not just from what I have done, but I want to make it different from what anybody else has done. I want my new next project to be as unique as possible, is my goal in general. So, but working with brands, you have realized that hammering yourself as a brand is also very important. Leaving that signature style, like some directors have beautiful costumes in their film, some directors have beautiful framing in their film. There is no style as such for me right now. I just find a style, I get very motivated by that, and then I try to make it very unique for my next project.
Awesome. Can you share some advice or anything that you wished you'd have known sooner?
I, after getting working into the industry, be it me or my friends who are working into the industry, we realized that what film school or any school teaches us is mostly the technical aspects of making films. Those are very good, but they'll only get you till a point. What gets you beyond the point is also the soft skills, like maintaining relations with clients, understanding clients' perspective of what they want. These are things which are taught in business schools, but I feel like film schools tend to completely ignore them. Whenever you get on a project, you should have that perspective. Why does a client want to show? Because for me, it's very annoying that wide is the 60% of the film product, but for client they feel like it's just 60% of the film which is product, it should be 100%. So that fight always goes on. You'll also have to understand client's perspective, and once you start looking through client's perspective, convincing client to get a artistic element in the film would get easier for you, because that's what we want as well as an artist, and that's what we believe audience want.
What are your thoughts and feelings on AI?
I've been using ChatGPT since the day one it came out. I've actually personally sold scripts written by ChatGPT to my client, and they have been shot and produced. I feel like it is a helping tool, but it will for sure do what it is like, what we are afraid of, that is taking our jobs away. It'll reduce the market size. I feel it'll take away mediocre people first, and then maybe it'll hit the other category of people as well. But we'll find a way around. For now, I'm very impressed with Midjourney as well. I have in fact started referencing. I mean, the master look I want to achieve is mostly generated through Midjourney. I try using that for it. And then there are frames. I mean, how usual referencing works. Then we do that. But everything out of Midjourney looks spectacular, and ChatGPT is also very nice. It's getting better day by day. Way better you give it the prompts, it is good. In terms of future, how it could affect us, I would say it is going to take away our jobs, but still, I mean, either we get better or better at it. It won't start shooting films for us, so I feel I'm safe in that way. It'll just start creating films for us digitally, but that'll still be a different art form. For example, how novels were there and then films came along, but still novels, although their target reach reduced a lot, but it's still a separate class. It's not confused with the films. So AI art will not get confused with the videos, raw videos being shot on camera. I feel, I mean, looking at stuff we have on the internet right now, I can say that. And I don't know what future holds.
Yeah, to be honest, I've started using ChatGPT a lot more lately. I'm kind of a little bit bitter that it didn't come around when I was at university. But yeah, I've started using software called Recut, which helps to get rid of like dead air and silences in an edit. It would take me like a little while, like half hour, say, to do it myself, but the AI just does it like that. So
Yes, and those half an hour won't be even productive hours. Those are just you mindlessly removing the blank spaces. It's like you getting an intern.
exactly, yeah, it's like having an assistant. So what are your influences that you often refer back to, like any films or media that you'd recommend?
I mean, filmmaking styles have influenced me. I am a big fan of Casey Neistat. His storytelling is very unique, very crisp, and he sticks to his style, and it's mostly based out of his intuition. He doesn't summarize what his style is. He doesn't put it into words. It's just one Casey Neistat is a style, and it'll be different in every video. I'm I'm influenced by him to an extent, and films. Uh, I can't name films. I was very recently fond. I got a very hang of this Euphoria, the web show. You've seen the visuals from Euphoria look fab. They look out of the world. That has impressed me a lot. I tried achieving that, and in terms of films, mostly the films I watch are comedy movies. So I just watch films for entertainment, and then I watch other videos, other stuff to get technical breakdown of stuff. And I mean, I keep my entertainment separate from my work, I would say.
What's your advice for building and maintaining professional relationships in the industry?
I feel like a lot of when I talk to people, how should we approach client, and a lot of answers are like we should cold email, we should network, we should socialize. Those all are a good way to do that, but those are not as impactful as, I mean, there are clients out there who are looking for freelancers, I believe, and this improvement should come in from client side as well, but we should put ourselves out there more. Let's say this podcast is an example. You can be more active on social media and basically make yourself findable for client. So let's say a client goes out and searches for, I want a guy to do stop motion for me. He types this on Google. How do you make yourself show up as that stop motion guy is what we should work on, I believe. And then this will also make it this right now there are a lot of middlemen in the process between artist and the brand. We already have this ecosystem of internet to make reach directly to the client. It's just we are lacking those keywords. What should client put on Google to find us, or what should we put on Google to find them? So from our side, from a creator's perspective, all what you should do is make yourself findable, make your style unique, and then put it out on internet. Social media could be used for that. Google, your website could be search engine optimized. You could put yourself out on YouTube and all the places that you could. That's way wiser way of attracting more clients. Plus the standard ways of cold emailing. Cold email and cold DMs often get annoying to client. They're not, because these people are also getting a lot of them, and they are getting a lot of DMs, especially when they are not looking out for those people. Let's say I get a DM that I can shoot a video for you, but a lot of times clients are not looking for someone when they want to shoot a video with. But when they are actually looking out, they'll try using a few means, make sure you are available on those roads, is I would say.
How do you balance your artistic integrity and your commercial viability when you're working on one of your projects? How does that work?
I think you can find good ideas at every point, commercial point. I am already at a spot where I don't have clients who are paying very, very low. I am at a spot to say no to those clients, but when you have enough buffers, you can find a lot of creative ways to do things cheap, especially right now when earlier what was there was you needed a lot of production to make good films. You needed a lot of manpower, a lot of studio space and all of that. But now the post processing softwares, editing softwares are very, very capable, and I feel still they are very underutilized. The amounts of features being added to editing software is not even reflecting in the films we see out there. So I feel like if in case you are tight on the commerce aspect of your project, you can bring in the artistic aspect, bring your idea to life using other tools which could be available on your editing software. Yeah, that's what I would say, because money can only limit your production. It can limit number of locations you can shoot at. It can limit number of people you could shoot with. It could also at times limit your lighting requirement or something. But then you can use a very different kind of audio cut that nobody has ever seen before. You could put some very different footage on a very new sound that when it goes together it sounds very unique. These things nobody can limit you with. So there are a lot of possibilities. I try using different techniques when there's a budget cut, but I try keeping them unique as possible, as new as possible.
This is probably more relevant to freelancers, but how do you negotiate contracts within the film industry and agreements and stuff?
If you're getting a client who's choosing you just on the basis of cost and that person doesn't understand value of what you do, then the only way for you to get the project is sending a cost that is lower than other people's cost, and that everyone hates. But I don't know if there's any other way to win that project. But in general, for a long term, that's not a sustainable way to survive as an artist or a creator. So developing a unique style or understanding what your client needs better than any other person, or finding new ideas for your client. Basically, we are in media industry, and people are putting money into media industry because media has that virality factor. Something a brand or a client, I'm talking from all advertising perspective, would put out on internet has ability to go viral, although most of the time it doesn't. But if you can convince them on that value, then they will be ready to put in more money onto same production. It might be same production, but idea is changed in some other way. It could be a different style, it could be a spoof, it could be something very new audience hasn't seen and it has a virality factor or a stronger impact. Then those are the things you can convince your client on. I mean, this is where looking at things from client's perspective come into play. Over here, making them understand production costs might not help much. I feel like that.
Can you give a bit of a breakdown on how many projects that you typically take on? I assume things for you aren't like a straightforward 9 to 5.
Okay, I'll give you a number. So last year I was just by this March end I was maintaining a sheet of all the projects I've done and all the pitches I've worked on. There were total of 110 projects that I worked on last year, which was a little lower than a year before that. Being an agency, I mean, the business development part is taken care of by the agency. So I get to work on more number of projects. And these projects range from 2 to 3 days of shoot, and then there's a lot of pre-production, a lot of post-production, and there is a lot of overlap among those projects. At times there are 2 to 3 projects going on at the same time. So most of my days go very busy, but at times when you don't have work, it is super chill. I mean, you are literally doing nothing. So that time can be used for finding new things you could do with your next project, or looking at references, looking at what's new happening in AI or on any software. For example, today morning I was learning how sound mixing and mastering is done from this random guy on YouTube, and it was very interesting to know. I mean, because we are working over here and we also are part of our job is to give feedback to people, and if you don't know what you're talking about, you'll sound dumb. So you should be technically sound, just not just in what you are doing. For example, you are a DP, you should be a perfectly sound DP, but you should also understand aspects of sound design, other aspects of direction, that at times you need to prioritize actor space over your camera movement, those things. So that's what my breakdown of a year would look like. I have been very busy. I mean, there has been overlap of projects, but still at times we get a stretch of 2-3 weeks very free, or 2-3 days in between very free. But still, it's not too much, because most of my weekends are free. I try keeping my weekends free unless there is a thing I have to work on. But that's how it goes.
Do you find it difficult to switch off from one project when you've got to be working on another project? So if you've got, like you say, overlapping projects.
Personally, I don't find it difficult, but my phone makes it difficult by ting, 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 ting. Those notifications make it difficult. And then once you see a notification, you can't avoid it. You have to respond to it. And yeah, I mean, if somebody can take care of my notifications, I can switch among projects like this. That's the thing. I mean, I have developed a practice where I'm able to focus on what's on my screen, what's on one tab that I'm doing, and then finish it off and then get up from the chair. So that hasn't been difficult for me. Only the notifications are making it tough.
So what are the usual challenges that you face as a director or cinematographer when it comes to taking a brief or a pitch idea and putting it to screen?
Okay. So in advertising, I'll tell you, most of the scripts are written by a creative team in agency. And these people who are writing these scripts have not been onto a lot of sets like us. They might have seen one or two shoots. They have a fair, broader, general understanding of how production works, but they still don't write it from a visual perspective. They'll write it from a very brand perspective. So it's the moment I get a script, it's my duty to make it very visual, very all the communication that happens through words as much as possible happens through visuals, through sound, through editing, through any of the filmmaking technique. That is one aspect of it. And yeah, I mean, I also maintain a library of references, a playlist of references on YouTube. And then I don't have one playlist, I have like 15 playlists. One could be playlist for sound design references, one could be for cinematography reference, for music reference. So when projects come onto you, the scripts come to you, you don't have a lot of time to add visual elements, a lot of time to think. So that's when you can go through those playlists and quickly select a style for your next film. And you can make these playlists when you have free time and no projects. That is efficient way and like more effective way of doing it, I would say.
Are there any aspects of cinematography that you find particularly fascinating at all?
In terms of direction, what my broader approach these days have been is it should seem very cohesive. So there are two kinds of film. One kind of film is you shoot a lot and then figure out a narrative and edit. Second kind of film is you plan a lot and you shoot only what you need. and then it automatically fits in all together in the edit. I am trying to focus more on the second part now. I feel like the first one is also good, but you need a very good editor for that. Editor like Casey Neistat or someone who can figure out a perfect narrative out of bunch of footages, and who maybe knows storytelling in edit, but a good editor can also do only this much. You need to shoot right things. So I have been trying to make my film as tight as possible in terms of there's no scope, there's a very little required amount of flexibility in edit, but it's not like you have a dump of footages and then you are finding out. That's what I've been trying to do in terms of direction, trying to make it very cohesive, and this way you can also plant a lot of things with a lot of payoffs in the films. In terms of cinematography, I don't remember particularly right now, but I want to try very, very different, very, very unique styles every time I shoot a new project. It could be very warm, very dark look for the first time. It could be very pastel, very bright and flat, like Barbie-like look for the next one. And then it could be a murder mystery. That's what I want to do, but I'm in advertising, so you can't put in murder in ads.
With your career as a director, where would you like to see yourself in like 10 years' time, say?
So far, it has been very busy, which I like about my career, because around an industry, we see a lot of people who have been looking for work for a long time, and then they find it very difficult to get projects. And I am very, very grateful that I'm getting work back to back, because lack of work can make you insane. A lot of work cannot. In terms of a longer goal, I want to develop a brand value, I would say, around me that makes client trust me a lot more easily with respect to anything they want to do. I want to make clients believe that I am on their side while I'm making an ad, but I'm also on audience's side, that it's not annoying to watch their ad, because eventually their brand value gets hampered if it's annoying to watch anything associated with their brand. And just be a go-to filmmaker for any good brand. I want to stay in advertising as of now. I do want to make narrative. When it comes to narrative, I do want to make documentaries personally, but that would be a passion project. I won't expect things out of it. I won't expect it to be sold and make money. I would just want to make it to bring change somehow. But professionally, in terms of career, what I want to make money off and what I want to do for living would be making ads for big brands and make a name that can be trusted by anyone on brand side.
Can you share any advice on how to build a strong professional team? So do you outsource any of your crew for a shoot?
A lot.
Do you find yourself outsourcing the same people and maintaining that professional relationship long term?
We do a lot. We work with a lot of freelancers. I mean, when I'm directing, we get a freelance DP and we have very different DPs. And so advice for building a team is what you said, right? Yeah. So for building a team, I would say, again, same things come into the play, that when you're talking to a brand, you would want to look at things from brand's perspective. But when you hire a freelance DP or a freelance art director, you would want to look at things from their perspective. As a freelance DP, what does that person want to do? What kind of films does he want to make? And can he achieve a part of it in my film? At the end, everyone should feel like this is a project they enjoyed working on and would like to work more on. And what else? Let me think. Yeah, I mean, at times you do find annoying talent. At times you find talent with ego issues, although they are very good at their work, but they are still very difficult to work with. But at very rarely you find very good talent, and talent who is very easy to work with, who tunes with your frequency. And I would even argue with my client for them. I would make sure they get to do their best work on my project. So later on, at if I although I never want to take favors from people, I always want to pay people for what they do, because this industry is engineered around taking favors and getting films made. But I don't like that aspect of our industry, where you call your friends and then ask them to shoot for you for free for credit. I absolutely hate that aspect of our industry. I would not like that to happen. But in case I would try building good relations and making sure this talent get to do his best job on my film.
How do you navigate the challenges of budgeting and financing?
Um, uh, if I have to get around the budgeting issue, if there's a tight budget, option A is, if the client is convinced on the idea, that means he trusts you for that idea. And then if you can ask them to get their budget up, because and then tell them why and give them a breakdown, if that works out, that's the best case scenario. Option B would be using simplified version of different things. For example, your initial idea involved shooting in mountains, but you don't have budget now, so get a green screen and do it. And then at times you'll have to sacrifice. And if I say I have done like 300 projects in last 4 years, I don't think like half of them are worth showing to anyone, because there are a lot of compromises on a lot of projects. And I mean, it's lack of understanding, it could be anything. But only when both the sides understand that this is what is required to make what we dream of, is when a project becomes a good project. So that's mostly convincing the client on the idea.
Is the budget something that is set in stone ahead of time, or is that something that's negotiated later on down the line? I guess you must have a rough ballpark to start with.
It's mostly set. So you would present a concept to the client, that it would be a one paragraph note attached with a video reference, and then you would send a ballpark cost to them. It'll be like 10 lakh rupees. And then they would, if they like the idea, they give a thumbs up, and then we go into the production, we send them an exact cost, and then work our idea around the money we have. Most of the time this is the workflow, so it doesn't get very difficult, because if we have a lower budget, we will work our idea around that lower budget. If we have whatever the budget is, we'll work around that. At times, if client has additional demands over it, then you can increase the budget. Or if you have new ideas that client might love, then you can present with an additional cost to them. But that's how it works. At times the budgets are tight, and working the idea around that tighter budget becomes very difficult. But that's when you can include creative elements through post-production or some other filmmaking technique that doesn't require money to be put in.
So have you ever faced any sort of major setbacks at all?
Yeah. There are no major setbacks. There's no dark phase in my life. It has been going smooth, but there are struggles every day. You have to put your foot down. You have to fight. You have to argue. You have to make your team understand. Those are very small things piling up over a long period of time. As a filmmaker, as a director, you have to win a lot of fights with a lot of people. It could be with your brand team, it could be with your writer, because writer, when he writes, he dreams that his film will be made like what he writes, but it doesn't work, so you'll have to put your foot down there. At times brands have, especially new brands, new clients have a very different understanding of what budgeting in making films would be. They believe great films can be made for very less money, so that's where a lot of fights happen. I think those are part of the process. Those are beautiful. I mean, they give satisfaction. Even after that heated argument, you are satisfied that you did your job well. You don't regret it. I think that's personally, till now, I don't have I don't have a 20 years of career that I would have to go through different phases. In last 4 years, it has been good, mostly. At times there were 2-3 months without work, but then we were able to use those work months time to learn new things. So there has been no major setback, but a lot of small fights every day.
So right now we're going to take a look at one of your pieces of work, and we're going to break down some of the techniques that you use to help it all come together. So yeah, let's jump right into it.
ओए सुन, मोहन बता रहा था तूने इंडिया मार्ट ज्वाइन किया है. तेरा बिजनेस कैसे चल रहा है? बायर्स एंड सप्लायर्स जेन्युइन है? पेमेंट सिक्योरिटी? और सेल्स का क्या? मैं भी ज्वाइन कर लूं?
इस साल अपने शौक पूरे कीजिए, लाइफ बिंदास जी लीजिए और बिजनेस के लिए इंडिया मार्ट. और क्या, आपके बिजनेस की सारी जरूरतों का वन स्टॉप एक्सपर्ट.
Things that gave me creative freedom on this project would be the location was very nice. That made everything better. Not having a product when you're shooting ads and you have a product, the lighting has to be super flat on product and it makes everything look dull. Although the product is very sharp and all, but it makes the frame look dull. So not having a product on the frame, because it's a website, so you can't have it on the frame, made things easier for me. I was able to shoot at a darker exposure and have a lot more contrast in the frame. And then I was able to make everything monochromatic. Most of the things you see are warm or brown or in the shades of brown. If I turn this film black and white, it'll be still as impactful as it is. I mean, it won't lose a lot of its impact. So that zone, this thing called 11 zones in photography, that your frames should have all 11 zones of lighting in equal proportions. I feel that was there in all 2-3 of the setups we had. And I think that's about it. And rest, it just felt nice. The frames were looking beautiful. I shot at wide open in terms of lensing choices, and I made it even softer in grade. Although I used very wide lenses to shoot, they were like 25mm or 35mm usually, never tighter than that. But still, I shot it wide open, and then I was able to get that background blur. At times, you have to avoid. I mean, getting background being blurred looks very amateurish at first place, but sometimes you have to do it when there's no information being conveyed through the background. Everything is happening on the subject. Then you have to blur the background.
What cameras and sort of gear were you using to shoot this commercial?
I shot this on Sony FX9, and lenses were Sony G Master lenses because we needed autofocus as well. And there was a list of lighting. In fact, I've made a post on my Instagram. It's @shot by Aneesh on Instagram, where I do breakdown of all the lighting position. I show the lighting map, and I show how the lights were made, behind the scene images. It's a proper breakdown post. It's on my profile. But broadly giving you an understanding, there were a couple of HMI lights, ARRI M18, and bunch of sky panels, lot of modifiers, black cloths, diffusion, thermocol, lot of black flags, and lighting was done separately for character, for ambience, for practical, and all the proper procedures were followed, and that's why it looks professional and it looks cinematic being an ad. Despite having so looking at this picture, it looks very dark and contrasty. Although the room was all white, it was painted white, the furniture was white, everything was white. So making a white room with a person wearing white look contrasty is a very tricky job. But I was able to do that, so that's one thing I'm proud of as well.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for today. And is there anything that you'd like to plug? Any social media or anything like that?
I think as of now, Instagram is good. Having my Instagram mentioned is good. Because everything else is like subsidiary to it. So my website is just a simple website with all the work links. And YouTube is blank, nothing apart from my showreel and random stuff we have made in film school. And no, nothing else. Just my Instagram would be good.